Hi everyone, welcome to Maximum Attack Rallying and to your Thursday dose of rallying chit chat. A couple of things I wanted to talk about in today's video. The first is that we had some news this week, didn't we, that Toyota will be running a very special Rally2 car in Finland. So I wanted to touch on that because I've been doing lots of new energy rally content recently. My last couple of videos have been about electric rally cars, so it is very interesting indeed that Toyota are going to be running a hydrogen powered GR Yaris Rally2 for demo purposes in Finland. That's going to be driven by Juha Kankkonen, who is obviously a very, very talented rally driver indeed. What do we make of this? I've seen a couple of comments saying that it's very exciting and that it's the saviour of the sport as we know it. Is that the case? I don't know. I can see why hydrogen is very appealing for people, because it allows us to keep internal combustion, doesn't it? So they used compressed hydrogen to run the internal combustion engine. This is not Toyota's first dalliance with that technology, so they've been running is it a Corolla in the Super Taiko series in Japan, and they demoed a GR Yaris, regular GR Yaris at Ypres Rally a couple of years ago, so they've obviously got form with this tech. Is it going to save the world? Is it going to stop the growing pace of electrification in the automotive industry? I'm not sure that it is. I think it has a place. I think certainly when you consider heavy goods transport and things, I think hydrogen is potentially a good solution to that, where batteries are problematic, where you need to maximize cargo space. So I think hydrogen has a role to play there. Will it be widespread in personal transport and in motorsport? I'm not so sure about that. Not because it isn't a viable solution. I think with development of the technology, I think it could work for some things, but I just think the way legislation is going, I think it might already be too late for hydrogen, unfortunately. We might see some hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, I suppose, powering electric motors, but will we see hydrogen powering internal combustion engines in passenger cars en masse or in motorsport en masse? I don't know. I just don't know if it's going to happen. It's very much down to how quickly they can develop the technology. The problem with it is that if you look inside the Toyota cars that have been produced, is that they are full of hydrogen tanks. So even if you look at the pictures of this GR Yaris Rally2, the rear windows are blanked out. I think there's some vents in there, in fact, in the pictures we've seen, because the back of the car is just full of tanks. So that is, it's a challenge. The technology is clearly not mature enough in having a sensible size space to store the hydrogen. And perhaps the last thing you want, I think, in a competition car that could go off the road and hit a bunch of trees is massive tanks in the back of it. So I am reserving judgment, and I'm not sure we should get too excited about it. Though I will say this, Toyota should be absolutely congratulated for at least trying this stuff. Even if this doesn't go anywhere, at least they're trying. At least they are looking at new technology. They're not accepting this whole political thing of being railroaded into battery electric vehicles. I have nothing against battery electric vehicles. I know some of you do, based on some of the comments on the last couple of videos, but I think we should keep an open mind. If you look back to what happened with diesel 10 years, 15 years ago, whenever it was, governments started giving people tax breaks for driving diesels because they had decided that diesel was the best thing in the world. And as it turned out, diesel wasn't the best thing in the world because it has drawbacks just like every other fuel source. And now they've started to penalise people for it. And I think that demonstrates to me that we need to keep an open mind. For a lot of people, battery electric vehicles will provide a perfectly good solution. For some people, hydrogen might provide a good solution. For some people, synthetic fuels. For some people, traditional petrol and diesel might still be the way. So I think the main thing for me is that we need to keep an open mind and let the engineers decide, and not let politicians make snap decisions based on incomplete information and a lack of experience. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore, but it is good, as I say, to see the Toyota are trying things and at least trying to link R&D to their motorsport programs, which is what it's ultimately all about. The other thing I want to talk about is something a little bit less current, but I hadn't really talked about it, and that is the fact that Oliver Solberg will be driving a Rally1 car at Rally Estonia. That is very, very exciting. I mentioned a couple of videos ago that I thought Oliver Solberg would make a good driver in my fantasy M Sport team alongside Johan Roussel. He has now been given a chance in Estonia with Toyota, so obviously he's been driving a Rally 2 car this season with Prince Sport. That seemed like a very deliberate move to get him into the Toyota circle with a view to getting into that Rally 1 car in the future, so I don't think anyone is really surprised that it's happened. I had my suspicions that it was going to happen at some point this season, and so it has come to pass. And that raises a question, doesn't it? What should we expect of Mr. Soulberg in Estonia? My answer to that question is not too much. I think the last thing we need to do is expect him to have this miracle rally. We know that he's fast. You know, we know that Soulberg is fast. He is the fastest driver in a Rally 2 car and probably has been for the last 2 seasons. Even though he didn't win the championship last year, he came second. But he clearly has the speed. I think what we need to see, though, is solid pace, no heroics, no disasters. You know, I think it's obvious that he is ready to be back in a top car. He was not ready to be in a top car, when he was initially promoted by Hyundai back in 2021, when he started in the i20N Coupe WRC, and particularly in 2022 when he was in the i20 Rally1. You know, there were some flashes of brilliance, but there was a few mistakes, and he just wasn't there, was he? He was very, very young, 19, 20, but now I think he has shown the maturity and the speed to demonstrate that he's ready for that move. I think what is really crucial, however, is that it's not just Soulberg that is ready. I think doing that, you know, making that move with Toyota is probably much more significant than it was with Hyundai. You know, things were very, very tricky when he was with Hyundai, so we were coming to the end of the 17 to 21 regulations when he had a few events in the older car, and then we got into the 2022 season, which frankly was a bit of a disaster for Hyundai. You know, that initial Rally 1 car was not there. It was developed very late and it wasn't really good enough, and that put additional pressure on him and probably made his job harder. You know, and Hyundai have been somewhat turbulent, I think, over the last few years when it comes to driver management, and particularly the person that is in the third car. So I think, you know, all of those things probably conspired against Soulberg, and I think this Toyota opportunity is probably much better, because I think you could say that Toyota is a lot better when it comes to managing drivers. And I think probably there are some better opportunities for Soulberg in that respect. So, you know, if you consider the Toyota lineup, yes, we've got Kalle Rovanperä and we've got Elfyn Evans, but I think there are some potential opportunities, aren't there? You know, we've got that car for Sébastien Ogier when he wants it. We don't know what he's going to do next year, but you know, we could find ourselves in a position where Soulberg could have that car when Ogier's not using it, or, you know, it's not to say that we might not even see a position where Takamoto Katsuta is made to step aside, move into a part-time program to give Soulberg some space. So I think there are many opportunities for Soulberg, potentially, probably more so than with Hyundai, whose future is still uncertain beyond 2026. So I think from that side, you know, from the managerial side, I think this is a better move than we saw when Soulberg was originally promoted. I also think, as I said, you know, he's ready now. He is absolutely ready. He is the fastest driver in WRC 2, and you know, he is the pick of that field. There are some very, very talented drivers in there. There are some drivers that definitely deserve a chance as well. Johan Roussel would be at the top of my list for that. But I think, you know, Soulberg is the pick of the WRC2 field, so it is absolutely time that he got that opportunity. I hope this won't be his only opportunity. As I said, though, you know, this isn't about heroics for me. I think a consistent performance, get to the end, get all the miles in that car he can get, don't throw it off the road. But if he can put in a few stages where he is quicker than Munster, quicker than Macaulay, quicker than Pajari, quicker than those guys, you know, it doesn't matter about beating Rovanperä, Evans, but if he can beat the guys lower down the order, I think that will put him in very, very good stead, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in that car again later in the season. So that is what I would be aiming for, but I will just say I'm really pleased to see it. It's about time. I think he is definitely ready, so I am pleased that he's getting the opportunity, and I think he is the next man that should move up. Whether that will be on a full-time basis remains to be seen, doesn't it? But there we go. So I wanted to comment on that, even though it isn't the newest news. I'm going to wrap this one up there, though. As always, make sure you like and subscribe. Follow me over on socials, and I will see you again next time.